What are the top 10 deficiencies that residential assisted living care homes continue to get? I'm actually going to discuss these top 10 deficiencies in this video, so if you're interested, make sure to stick around. What's up, everyone? I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Serge. Welcome to the channel. To all my reoccurring viewers, guys, thank you so much for all the love and support that you guys have shown on this channel. If you guys have not yet, feel free to go check me out on Instagram at Serge_Lopescu. Also, feel free to check out the academy down below. It is at legionassistedlivingacademy.com. Feel free to go check it out. And without further ado, let's go ahead and actually jump into the topic of this video. Let's go ahead and start with number 10 out of the top 10 deficiencies that care homes are getting. Number 10 is residency agreements, service plans, and also emergency and safety standards. Residency agreements, one thing people are leaving out is they're forgetting to get the TB from whatever discharging facility the resident is coming from. So make sure that you guys get the TB before you admit the resident into the facility to make sure that they're free of any tuberculosis. Also, with the service plans, people forget to get the signatures from whether it's the resident or if the resident has a POA making those decisions for them. They're forgetting to get those signatures from the POA and the resident. And then they're also forgetting to get the signatures from the doctors on the service plans. Also, you can get a signature from an RN or a PA or an MP. They can sign off on the service plans, and people are forgetting the signatures. And then they're also forgetting to have a disaster plan in place for their facility, and that has to be renewed every 12 months. Moving forward to number 9 is actually getting the permission from a doctor to allow caregivers to administer medications. People are forgetting to get that form signed, showing that the physician is allowing that facility and that all the caregivers within that facility to administer medications. Another thing that they're forgetting as well is having documentation for MARs and ADLs. This is one of the biggest things that people constantly get deficiency for because they forget to chart in the MARs and in the ADLs. And one of the surveyors was saying that it's one thing to, miss a day or two here because it was just a busy day and they forgot to chart in the MAR and in the ADL, but it's another thing to actually forget for a full month, okay? So make sure that your caregivers are charting in the MARs and in the ADLs, in the service notes, also the vital signs. If they're on insulin, make sure that they chart everything. Now, moving on is actually number 8. Number 8 is personnel files. One of the biggest things that is missing out of the personnel files is the TB of the caregivers, the volunteers, and anyone who's actually working more than 8 hours with the residents in the home. Anybody that is there more than 8 hours a day with the residents needs to actually have their TB done. So if they're taking care of the residents, they're having direct contact with them and everything for more than 8 hours, they need to have their TB done, okay? And they need to be free of TB. Otherwise, they're not allowed in the home, period. Moving on to number 7 is actually medical records. Every resident is supposed to have the availability of having the flu and pneumonia vaccination. There is a form in place to show that they decline both the flu and pneumonia, but regardless, that needs to be done on an annually basis. With number 7, that seems to be an issue on a continuous basis, and so managers need to ensure that their residents are getting the opportunity to have the flu and pneumonia vaccination every year, no matter what. Even if they decline it, make sure there's documentation proving and signed off that they have declined both the flu and pneumonia vaccination. Sitting at number 6 is the same thing. It's just charting in the MAR, not specifically the ADLs, but the MAR. It seems like, again, at number 6, it's the MAR. They emphasize charting in the MAR and giving certain medications. That is sitting at number 6. That's nothing new. That always seems to be a problem, is just documentation, and charting. People seem to forget that quite often. And so you guys need to emphasize that with your caregivers, that they need to continue to chart in the MAR, the medications that are given, the PRN medications. They need to document why they gave it, the effectiveness of it, and what the outcome was with that PRN medication. So make sure when you guys are charting in the MARs that you are training your caregivers to properly chart and to make sure that everything is being done properly. Sitting at number 5 is actually disaster drills for employees. That needs to be done, at least here in the state of Arizona. It is required every 3 months on every shift. Okay, so that is one of the biggest things. Sitting at number 5 is the disaster drills. Moving on to number 4 is actually, it's kind of funny, but it happens, and especially in these bigger assisted living care homes, it is actually the poisonous toxic materials that are not stored by the assisted living facilities, and unfortunately they're not labeling the containers in locked areas, and then also keeping them away from any type of food preparation and storage, dining areas, or medications. You need to keep that all locked away and separate from food and dining areas and medications. And managers are forgetting to get those locked up. Caregivers are not being trained properly and are forgetting to lock up all those poisonous toxic materials, because anybody with dementia, especially a resident, they may not be aware that something is not drinkable, and they may think it's milk, when in reality it's actually soap or something completely different that's not milk, and they end up drinking it and end up being poisoned, and it could potentially lead to death. So that is sitting at number 4. And then at number 3, again, it is the residency agreements. It shows here that the thing that they're specific on is, within 90 days, within your admission package, you should have everything that, shows that they are capable of actually being admitted into the facility. I've talked about this in a previous video, way back when, about the admission order form, which shows that they are free of having to need restraints, free of having to need continuous or intermittent nursing services or continuous medical services, and it needs to be signed and dated by a physician, a registered nurse practitioner, an RN, or a PA. So they need to sign off on that admission form saying that they're free of those things that I just mentioned before. And so apparently a lot of people are missing that as well. And guys, a lot of this is either paperwork or just simple things that could be, avoided if properly trained and you guys don't overlook certain things. Sitting at number 2, surprisingly, is medication is not stored in a separate locked room, closet, cabinet, or self-contained unit used only for medication storage. So that's actually sitting at number 2, is the fact that medications aren't being locked up. And it's a very simple thing, guys. I'm telling you, it's a very simple thing to just properly get your medication stored and locked away in a cabinet, in a closet, wherever you store the medications, and it just needs to be locked away and kept separately from anything and everything in its own separate closet. And I show that in my tour video of the home where the medications are all locked up separately. So apparently that's at number 2. And number 1, it is actually a medication administration errors. Okay, it's actually medications that have been, discontinued, medications that were prescribed but weren't ever documented in a MAR, or there's just a medication that shouldn't be there. So that is number 1, is actually the medication itself, administering the certain medication to a resident. So guys, maybe it may be even a dosage, it may be something completely different, but it all comes down to that certain medication being administered to the resident. That falls at number 1. So medication administration is number 1, which is actually really scary to think about, because that is probably the most dangerous thing that you could possibly do to a resident, is giving the wrong medication, giving the wrong dosage, so on and so forth. So guys, I talk about these deficiencies. You can find them online at Arizona DHS. You guys can go through and look at them. But this is ultimately for the care homes out there and for future care homeowners to just take a look at. And I will link down below the Arizona DHS website for you guys to check out the top 10 deficiencies for assisted living homes for yourselves, which I think is really good for you guys to check out. It's public, so I don't mind sharing any of it for you guys. Again, my whole goal is to hopefully help you guys out, hopefully help you guys to actually avoid making mistakes, and for me to also learn about what I could do better, also to see what I should avoid, because again guys, the whole point of this channel was to actually inspire you guys and also to help you guys avoid a bunch of mistakes that other care homeowners are doing, also things that I've done, mistakes that I've made. And then again guys, it's all about actually going out there and doing it and providing the best care possible for the elderly. So I hopefully this inspired you guys and helped you guys, and kind of maybe it was an eye-opener for some of you guys out there wondering what kind of deficiencies, or at least the top 10 that you guys should avoid. Obviously there's a lot of other deficiencies that happen that don't make it to the top 10. It could be little things, it could be big things, but they probably don't happen as frequent as these ones. So anyways, hopefully this helped guys, and if you guys found this video very informative, make sure to actually hit that like button for me, smash that subscribe button for me. Also feel free to go check me out on Instagram at Serge_Lupescu. Again, feel free to go check out the academy if you guys want to. And guys, until the next video, God bless, peace.